The idea of medical marijuana is controversial enough. How about medical magic mushrooms? The idea is gaining steam, and New Mexico is at the center of it. News 13's Kim Holland is on special assignment.
My entire body started tingling, and then all of a sudden I was overwhelmed by what he calls the curtain of colors.
Start talking about psychedelic drugs and most people will think of hippies and counterculture of the 1960s. But today, more and more mainstream scientists are studying psychedelics in lab settings, mainly psilocybin, the active ingredient in mushrooms, and dimethyltryptamine, also known as DMT, a substance produced by the body and found in hundreds of plants that causes hallucinations.
So powerful, it's so overwhelming, that the trouble becomes you're propelled into this alternate space, you experience it, and then you come back.
Scientists want to know if these drugs can be used to treat problems like depression, anxiety, and addiction. New Mexico is at the center of this research.
Oh, it's gratifying. I'm surprised that more people haven't taken advantage of the work I did.
Dr. Rick Strassman, a psychiatrist, studied DMT at the University of New Mexico in the early 90s, the first U.S.-based research on the effects of psychedelics on humans in 20 years. It took him years to get permission from the U.S. government for the study. He ended up administering more than 400 doses of DMT to his test subjects over a 5-year period.
The study was just to demonstrate that it could be done. And, the next order of, business was to characterize the responses, to DMT as carefully as I possibly could.
Andrew Stone was one of Strassman's 60 volunteers. In 1995, he was injected with a series of tightly controlled doses of DMT.
Just so terrified.
He says the trips were short, lasting about 18 minutes each.
We went into this space that I felt had something very much to do with either being born or dying.
Now, 16 years after Strassman's groundbreaking study ended, New Mexico still remains at the forefront of scientific research into psychedelics. The Santa Fe-based Hefner Institute funds and provides scientific review of psychedelic studies around the country.
When someone comes to us with a research proposal, we send it to the best experts we can find to make sure it's the best science that it can be before the study starts.
Dr. George Greer says that since 1993, the Hefner Institute has raised about $3 million from private donors for research into hallucinogenic drugs. Most of the actual research, however, is done at places like UCLA, Johns Hopkins University, and New York University.
Had gotten so myopically focused on fighting cancer that had sort of become my whole life.
Clark Martin, a retired clinical psychologist, found that psilocybin jolted him out of the depression he experienced while battling kidney cancer. He was given a psilocybin pill in 2009 as part of an experiment at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. We talked to him through Skype.
Just became more aware of the rest of my life, the other things going on.
Martin says that one trip improved his relationship with his daughter, his father, and his friends. Patients, study volunteers, and doctors we spoke with all agree psychedelic drugs must be administered in a controlled setting by trained clinicians and should not be available over the counter. But they believe the drugs could be available to patients on a larger scale soon as research continues to progress since UNM in the early 90s.
I'm gratified that it did kind of crack open the door, but the floodgates, certainly, have not, been opened up.
Kim Holland, KRQE News 13.
And a documentary on Dr. Strassman's research will be shown at the Guild Theater in Albuquerque January 25th. For more information, visit our website. That's krqe.com.
And Mark